A 2018 law now requires students from Hong Kong and Macau studying on the mainland to undergo military training. And this says a great deal about the loss of sovereignty of these special administrative regions of China and has implications for Taiwan, which I'll discuss at length in a separate video. But this is effectively one more example of Beijing exporting its control and censorship. Historically, students from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan were treated as foreign students in China, or more accurately, they were treated in a gray area between Chinese citizens and foreign students. Originally, they lived in foreign student dorms, for example. The typical Chinese dorm has 6 students per room, no heating, and no air conditioning. The electricity is shut off by midnight, the toilet is down the hall and usually reeks like nothing you have ever experienced, and there's a shower house somewhere on campus which is only open at certain times of day. Foreign dorms, by contrast, usually have 1 or 2 students per room, have air conditioning and heating, and have their own bathroom and shower. While I was studying in China, an edict came down saying that our Hong Kong classmate had to move out of the foreign dorm and into the Chinese dorm. We took up a petition and fought tooth and nail, and eventually she was allowed to stay. But I don't know what happened to the students who came in after her. I do know that when a group of Taiwanese students came for a 2-week exchange, they had to live with the Chinese students. Beijing's logic in this is that they're recognizing Hong Kong, Macau, and even Taiwan as part of China, and thus restricting their rights to match those of other Chinese citizens. Since the beginning of Xi Jin Ping's administration, international human rights and academic monitoring organizations have noted increased restrictions on academic freedom, as well as a tightening of China's control on Tibet, Inner Mongolia, and Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, as well as Macau and Hong Kong. They have documented systematic and targeted tactics used by the CCP to constrict academic activity and to intimidate, silence, and punish outspoken academics and students. Language requirements have been used to prevent minority Uyghur, Tibetan, and Mongolian students from attending university. Surveillance has increased, and minority scholars and students have been shipped off to re-education camps. There has been constant erosion of university autonomy in Hong Kong and Macau, as well as tighter controls on foreign joint venture universities on the mainland. And extraterritorial pressure by the Communist Party through the Confucius Institutes and other activities to restrict academic inquiry and expression at universities outside of China. I'll be discussing the Confucius Institutes at length in my next video, but these are Chinese government-funded teaching programs which Western universities can host. The universities receive a grant of at least $100,000 and can boast that they have an improved Chinese language program. The FBI has launched numerous investigations against these institutes, however, on suspicions of everything from restricting academic freedom, press freedom, and political freedom to spying and espionage. Consequently, numerous European countries have banned the institutes, and many universities in the U.S. are closing them down. But the Confucius Institutes are one more example of the repression of academic freedom in China and how this repression is being exported by the Communist Party of China. It is also a sad commentary on how fragile the commitment Western institutions have to freedom if they're willing to allow freedom to be compromised or restricted in exchange for money. Beginning in June 2019 and still continuing into 2020, there have been pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong nearly every day. As a direct consequence of the Hong Kong protest, Beijing announced in November that they would ramp up patriotic education in Hong Kong. Already, students in Hong Kong are reporting that their academic freedoms have been reduced and that they are barred from discussing independence or increased democracy. Foreign universities are also self-censoring and restricting their own academic freedom, either to appease China in order to avoid being blacklisted and losing Chinese students, or to prevent putting Chinese students at risk who study abroad. In other words, one of the concerns that an American university may have is that if they hosted the Dalai Lama or a spokesperson from the government of Taiwan, Chinese students might have to later prove after returning to China that they did not attend those events or that they opposed them. Some Chinese students in America working on behalf of the Communist Party take photos of the attendees of these events and send them back to China, where facial recognition software can be used to identify Chinese nationals who attended such lectures and punish them upon their return to China. Other forms of censorship have included the Chinese government preventing certain Chinese academics from leaving the country to study, conduct research, or attend conferences abroad. Or they may restrict visas to Western academics who they feel will disseminate information which challenges CCP authority and policies. The CCP funds, and the CCP, by the way, the Communist Party of China, the CCP funds student groups on foreign university campuses and has them carry out objectives of the Communist Party of China. For example, at McMaster University in Canada, a presentation by a Uyghur activist was disrupted by a Chinese student group funded by the CCP. It was later found out that instructions were passed to these students through the Chinese consulate. Well, I'm Dr. Antonio Graceffo. Thank you for tuning in to China Economic Research. You can get my books on Amazon.com. I write about the Chinese economy and wrestling and martial arts around Asia. You can also follow me on Twitter. I tweet about the Chinese economy and the Mongolian economy. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe to the channel. I'm Dr. Antonio Graceffo. See you next time on China Economic Research.